the president, in putting its presidency on the line, yes, can you hear me, Raymond?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I'm saying that if the president, in putting his presidency on the line, was not able to fight it, how much more meeting MMDCEs and chiefs? And Raymond, you listen to the president in meeting the chief. One of the things the president said was that if the NPP wants to break the eight, then one of the things they must do is to fight Galamsey. Again, there is a political twist attached to this. While some may argue that, well, it could be a blessing because the president says, if we're unable to fight Galamsey, people will not vote us into power. Don't forget, the same president has been talking about how some people, or how his party performed poorly because of their fight against Galamsey. So if you put these two together, Raymond, and if you consider the fact that the president is the chairman of the National Security Council, and as we speak, the president has BNI officials now, National Investigation Bureau officials, in every part of the country. Are you saying that these persons don't give the president the information that he needs? Is that what we're saying? And so today the president will now go and meet MMDCEs and meet chiefs, and when he meets chiefs, he says, let us not politicize the fight against Galamsey. When he meets MMDCEs, he says, let us do this so that we're able to win power. Look, what I want to hear from the president is that I have sacked people because they are engaged in Galamsey. And let nobody pretend that what we are experiencing today is not people engaged in artisanal mining, not people, the poor villager engaged in Galamsey. No, these are rich and powerful people engaged in illegality, irresponsible mining. I'm sorry, the president cannot pretend to be fighting these menace when he knows those who are involved and members of his party who are involved. The president definitely knows them. So for me, it's just much ado about nothing, Raymond.
Now, I'm sure she's coming back to you, and Erastus should join us in this conversation because he has been to virtually every corner of this country where this massive devastation is happening. If you ask me once again, okay, so is it the case that the president is no longer in touch with his own officers on the ground? Is it the case that the president has lost control of the people he calls his district chief executives, who he, let's be clear, directly appointed? So the president actually appointed them. They were approved by the various districts across the country, which means that ideally he should have direct contact to them. He can fire them at will, and he can actually remove anybody he wants at DCE anytime the person is not functioning to the level that he wants them to deliver. Is it the case that the president gave a directive that was unclear to the people, that he needs to go and now reiterate his directive to them and tell them once again that I'll not protect you? Exactly what is it that requires the executive leader of the country moving down to go and meet his people he has given a specific job to do? One of the most important duties of every district chief executive is to chair his DISEC, which is the security committee there. If the man is chairing the DISEC, it means that he controls the security people in his area. How come there is massive devastation happening in your area? The water bodies have been destroyed, farmlands have been destroyed. We are actually being accused of producing very terrible food because of this. We are at the risk of being banned or attracting sanctions because of how mercury and other things are likely to destroy our crops. Even the savior crop, the cocoa, it's actually being risked here. And yet, is it the case that every single district executive who's in the constituency, who is in the district, who is in the municipality, where Galamsey is happening, does not know the mandate they have? Is it something that requires the president to all meet them in the circle and remind them of the mandate? What happened to the direct responsibility that the president is supposed to have over these people? Is it that first, the directive was clear, but they didn't understand it? So the president has to give them a different directive so that they would actually get to understand that.
Raymond, Raymond,
yes.
Raymond,
Yeah, yes, Winston, you were talking. I actually stopped because of your intervention. Yeah. Well, if I can't get Winston through, Erastus, because I'm asking these questions because
Look, Raymond.
yes,
Yes, Raymond. Look, the president has been very clear. Now, let me tell you something.
yes, Winston. Well, I mean,
I'm saying that the president has been very clear. He's consistently talked about how he's committed to the fight. But commitment to fight is not, merely speaking to us all the time. Commitment to fight is you acting. Yes, commitment to fight is you acting. So if you cannot act and you're consistently talking, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're not saying anything. Show your people that you care. If you cannot show them, if you cannot punish them for the wrongs they do, they will continue doing the wrongs. And so you go and meet them because all of a sudden we're talking about Galamsey again. The Morning Show is consistently talking about Galamsey. And so the president deems it necessary to now start and say, oh, I am meeting chiefs and I am meeting MMDCs. This is deja vu. We saw it previously. I mean, it went on for 2 years. What did we see? Within those 2 years period, the people who were brought into this country, I mean, found to have been engaged in illegal mining, they were repatriated into their countries, were told of, I mean, the business sense it made at the time. And what are we faced with today? Please, look, if the president is committed, let the president show commitment by beginning to fire people. Let the president not show commitment by just talking and say that, oh, the right that I am, they must show evidence. National security can always show evidence. They can arrest some of these people. They would pick intelligence, arrest them, and you, the same president talking about using the Anas principle, is today telling us that people, I mean, you need evidence. What evidence do you need? If you want to use the Anas principle, you'll be caught in the act.
Very well.
That will be it.
Now, Erastus.
Please, let's get serious and let's fight.
Erastus, you can hear me. Yeah, the question I'm asking
I can hear you.
Brilliant. Now, you have engaged DCs. You have been to virtually every corner where Galamsey is happening across the country. Is it the thinking you have that the DCs understand the president to mean he's not supporting Galamsey and that they are afraid of the very happening if they continue doing Galamsey? Are DCs emboldened enough to fight it? Are they actively participating in it? Do they have the wherewithal to stop even more powerful voices and people from participating in the acts that's happening on the ground?
I'll answer your question this way. As we speak, somebody sent me videos of a stream called Dakar. It's in the Awin district, and people have mounted fresh champagne straight from the factory on the river. The river looks so fantastic, clean. I'll send you the video.
Okay.
They sent it to me and said the people are ready to mine, to destroy the river as we speak. I sent the videos to the DC for the area. Can you imagine that he has missed that he knows the area, he has not intervened, and the next video that my source sent me is that the people have mined and the water now, if I send the two videos to you, the water is now dirty. So what does it tell you of such a DC?
So this Irene DC that you are talking about, is he a collaborator here or he's just powerless?
Your guess is as good as mine. If I send you videos of a crime that is about to be committed, and I send you the location, and you admit that, yes, I know the location, but you cannot stop it, and the people actually go ahead to commit the crime, what does that say of you? That you are either complicit or you are powerless to stop it. And this is just one example. I get many of those things, plenty.
So when you hear
I forward them to the various DCEs and the power players. Sometimes they acknowledge, sometimes they won't even say, oh, I've received it. They won't even acknowledge receipt. And the action goes on. And it tells you that they are either complicit or some way, somehow, they don't want to fight it. Or the persons involved in that particular act hold power that is above his. And so he doesn't want to step on anybody's toes. So he just won't go there.
So
even the police, sometimes.
Okay. Even the security institution
even the security institution, sometimes when you report things to them, they first ask you who is mining there. When you tell them, silence. Because there's power after power. So if somebody is mining and he can, and they know, it's not like they do not know. They know every person who is mining at every location in their district. They know.
Now,
and they will tell you that as for that one, I can't go there.
Okay. Now, it sounds ridiculous to me, but so when you hear the president say that he's not shielding anybody and that they have been emboldened to act and the express of them action and the reality on the ground, do you think that he's dealing with a different set of people or he's living in a different world when it comes to the fight against Galamsey?
The president is living in a different world. The president knows what is happening. I am convinced now that he just doesn't want to act. And I'm saying this because if he says he needs evidence, I have provided him with evidence of Chairman Untumi Bernard and Chubosiako, whose company, Akonta Mining, is directly in the town on the main forest as we speak. Has he been able to stop him? Is that not evidence? We have given you drone footages of a crime that is being committed. Drone footages of a crime that is being committed as we speak. And then the president comes to Kumasi and meets the chiefs and DCs and he says, I saw evidence. What evidence do you need? When you go to Samra Boy, on the bridge there, Mempasam community, I have shown you a drone footage of Akonta Mining sitting directly in the Tano River. Has anybody gone there? Is that not evidence? Pictorial evidence, video. Has anybody been bold enough to call Untumi to order to say, let's go there? Has the Mineral Commission withdrawn the license of Akonta Mining, which the law, of course, prescribes? So is the president living in Ghana? He's living in a different world altogether. I tell you, he doesn't want to fight Galamsey.
Now, it appears very interesting to me. So, on one hand, he's saying all the wonderful things that you would want him to say before chiefs.
Because of the persons involved.
Okay.
How can other people? How can he touch other people? Of course, there are people I know sitting in Ankwaso Forest. There are people who are mining in Pamprama Forest, which I know the links, the people involved. If I'm a simple journalist with a camera and a drone and a pen and a paper, if I can walk into a forest reserve and get you evidence, and you are the commander-in-chief of the...
Well, I'm struggling to hear you, Erastus, on this one, but you were talking about... Yeah. Brilliant. I think it's better now.
Yes, I'm back now. So
yes.
If you are commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, you hold and command the Ghana Police Service, you hold the national security under your armpit, and you cannot do your own investigations into some of these infractions and deal with it, then please, Mr. President, I'm sorry. You're not ready to fight illegal mining. You're not ready. You just don't want to do it.
I guess at this point, I mean, Winston, if you get a chance to listen to the things that Erastus has just said about what is happening where, how DCs are responding to queries and all of that, there's only one conclusion you can get in this particular conversation. And that conclusion is that whether you like it or not, there are two different levels of dealing with the problem here. One, we are just saying we are fighting Galamsey. In reality, we are doing something way different from that. So when it comes to the publicity of having to take cameras to Kumasi, meet chiefs, dress nicely, and speak big English to them, we seem to be doing very well. But when it comes to the reality of having to make sure that our water bodies are clean, of having to make sure that we clear the people from our forest, and that people who are committing crime, and crime of very dangerous nature, crime that can destroy our future, crime that can permanently destroy our water bodies, the people who are committing these crimes appear to be way too powerful that it is only rhetoric that we are using to fight this particular fight. And how else can the ordinary people get their leaders to do different things? What else is expected of the people in this country? Should we necessarily be saying that, Mr. President, you have done enough? So if you don't want to do this for us, we would actually make sure it affects your votes. I'm sure governments are worried about votes when going into the future. Is this government willing to sacrifice the next generation to get the next election sorted out? What is required of us as ordinary people, beyond complaining, beyond journalists doing their investigations and bringing out some of these issues? What else can be done differently so that the people will realize that this collective distraction is not to our good? Indeed, why should the greed of a few people, sometimes not the very best of our people, not the most educated, not the brightest of our people, but just because they have the penchant to engage in crime, why should they be the ones who are running the affairs of this country in a way that they are destroying our water bodies? They are so powerful that they are controlling politicians. They are actually in bed with politicians, and to the extent that they are either sometimes even politicians themselves. To that extent, we cannot get to grips with this one. For a state that's been on state security levels that are very elevated, for a country that we have believed so well and so much that our national security is elevated, with a very potent military force that we deploy consistently, how is it possible that we still have some people sitting on our water bodies, sitting in our forest, and yet mining, and we are pretending we cannot flash out these? If we can't deal with illegal mining, can we truly deal with terrorism? Can we deal with the onslaught of what is massively funded like terrorism? How serious is a state like this if one single element of security cannot be dealt with? And you ask yourself this question. Ask yourself what your children's children will say of you in the next 10, 20, 50 years. They will say you are irresponsible. You did not leave any better future for them. You also ended up polluting their water bodies to the extent that they are also at the same risk of importing water into this country. Your state economy is not in the best shape. We know that for a fact. But how on earth is it possible that the natural things that your forebears left for you, you cannot leave it for your generation? If the government of this republic cannot do extraordinary things, I bet the only thing they can do now is to do the ordinary things. Protect the environment. Remove your cronies and the people we know that the only reason why you're not fighting it the way you ought to fight it is because they are related. But for that, and but for the amount of resources they are pumping down there, and it doesn't make sense. If a DC is failing, why is the DC not being removed? If a minister is refusing to do the job, refusing to protect our collective lands, it refuses to protect our water bodies, why are they not removed? Does that mean that everybody along the line, right from the top down, is complicit in this matter? What else is required by the ordinary people of this country? How much anger should they show before you know that they are very much unhappy with the destruction going on across the country? I've heard some suggest that the people who are involved in the illegal mining activities are more than about 3 million or so. Even if they are 30 million, wrong is wrong, right is right. The expectation is that people like you who are in office, especially the executive lead, will not just be talking about fixing this problem, but will be giving us rather timelines on when this should be fixed. If that is not done, ministers get removed. And also, not just ministers, DCs get removed. Security officials are sacked along the line. If the president cannot do these basic things, what else should we expect of the executive leader of the country? In any case, he's not fixing the economy. Well, I told my time is up, so that's where we actually end today's state of play. Be sure to join us next week for another wonderful edition.